It's stressful to call a medical practice. It's stressful to face the issues you might be facing. Let's say you're scheduling a checkup to maybe check. You've got a history of cancer in your family, right? And you finally want to schedule that checkup. And instead of scheduling it immediately, you have to wait on hold and like be with your thoughts for like 7 minutes or however long. I think there's tons of people, and that's what keeps me going at Talkie, that there's tons of people that just put the phone down and never call again, and it really impacts how long they end up, on this earth.
It's
So
not just stressful, right? Like, imagine we wanted to go on a trip to Italy, right? We would wait on the phone a long time because we want to go to Italy so bad, right? Ironically, we don't wait on the phone now. It's all self-service and we just book it ourselves. If it was something you enjoy, like a trip, we wait on hold to get tickets to our favorite concert. We don't like it, but we're motivated to do it because we can't wait to see Beyonce or Faith Hill or whoever, right? Like we can't wait to see
Metallica
Taylor
on my
Swift
end.
in concert. Well, if you want to do a concert, you'll wait on hold. Is there anything in healthcare that we want to do? The only answer is I'm in pain and I want this pain gone. And so like we're motivated when we're in pain, but other than that, like you're not motivated. Like we don't go to healthcare for our entertainment or because we are excited to see our doctor, right? It's something we do because we need to do it, but not something we want to do. So 100% you're right. Like when we're waiting on hold, we're like, dude, I'm waiting to do something, to schedule something that I don't want to do. That's not a recipe for happiness.
Hello, 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 everyone, and welcome back to Scaling Practice Management, the show where we help practice managers grow smarter, not harder. My name is Jakub Grajcar. I'm the head of marketing at Talkie AI, where we offer AI voice agents for the medical front desk. And my guest today is John Lynn, founder of Healthcare Scene, the Sway.health community, and the Healthcare IT Today community, where Talkie was actually previously featured. Super happy about that. John, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on. Excited for today's discussion.
I'm super excited as well. Often on this show and the previous shows I've hosted, I had, some first timers. I've never done a podcast and never done a live stream, but today is quite the opposite. You've done how many shows have you done? How many episodes, give or take?
I've done one or two, it's No, I mean, I don't know, I lose track. I mean, Healthcare IT Today, we actually have 5 podcasts, and 1 on Sway, I guess, 4 on Healthcare IT Today, and, we were somewhere around 1,000, 1,200 episodes, but Colin Hung's done a bunch as well, my colleague, but yeah, and then I've been on a bunch, but I love it, and I actually prefer to be the guest on a podcast versus interviewed. It's way easier to be a guest than host, I think.
If you say so. I like both. I definitely like both. Definitely more hosting than guesting. Although this week, just today, I'm recording 2 episodes as host, and then on Thursday, I believe, I'll be a guest. So it's a podcast heavy week for me, and I'm really glad about it. So we're gonna dive into a bunch of things today. Definitely want to talk about healthcare and tech with you, but we'll see where the conversation takes us. Definitely. But first and foremost, for the people who don't know you, from a professional background, we'll get into that. But as a person, I wanted to ask you, about something fun that you've done. Like, John, what is the most fun thing you've done this year thus far?
Yeah, there's so many things, and I like to live life to the fullest, right? I actually early on in my adult life, I guess you could say, I had someone say, I was like, well, how do I live life to the fullest? Whether it's fun, whether it's work, whether it's spiritual, whatever it is, and they said that's the key is just go all in. But I'd say the most fun thing is I was just thinking through this is probably I went to Cancun with 2 of my kids, with my sister-in-law and my niece and nephew, and my wife, went along as well, of course. But we went to this place called Explore, which in Cancun, it's this like almost like if you took nature and made it into an amusement park. and it's inside of a cave. Like, that's what explore is. Like, you're going through rivers on, in this cave. You're going on water slides that were like, I describe this water slide as basically if you packed every water slide at the water park here in Vegas into one slide, that's what it's like. So it was amazing. There were zip lines, there was amazing food. So I don't know, explore in Cancun, that was pretty phenomenal. And I used points for almost all of it. So it was even better because it cost almost nothing but points.
Okay. All right. Well, I have to ask, related to what you just said, in terms of not just fun, but all the rest of it, how do you live life to the fullest? What's the way to do that?
Yeah, I mean, I think, and I don't know if I'm ADHD, I don't know if I'm on the spectrum, I don't know, but like I have an ability to focus on whatever task is at hand. I think it's like one of my secret superpowers is like, okay, if I'm doing this, focus on this, and all the other distractions and worries and stresses of life just kind of don't exist when I'm focused on something. And so I don't know, that's how I approach it. So when I'm working, I'm just focused on working. And when I'm with my kids, I'm focused on the kids. And when I'm out, playing ultimate frisbee or disc golf, I love to play, anything with a frisbee. I like to chuck some plastic, So it's like when I'm doing that, I'm focused fully on that. And so I don't know, for me, that's the key is like focusing on the task at hand and just enjoying it as much as you can.
Yeah, I feel that. I was trying to think of something where I get fully immersed, and honestly, the first thing that comes to mind is board games. So I meet with this group of friends regularly, like once a month or so, and we play Terraforming Mars. One game of that takes us like 5 hours to play through, but we're so focused on it. I mean, some of us are, others just start chatting about life. We argue sometimes, but it's all good fun in the end.
Because they're not focused enough. That's
Yeah, yeah. But
and that 5
I'm like,
hours goes quickly when you're focused on something you care about, and so that's what's nice.
okay. So thank you for answering that. And I feel like I already know you better. So that's super cool. Next one is, so this is a question I ask most of the guests on the show, but I knew I had to ask you this one because I'm so curious. You've been in the healthcare space for a long time. And I just wanted to ask you, one, about the story of how you ended up here, but also, why are you and why do you stay in the healthcare space? What are some of your feelings around that?
Yeah, it's interesting for me. I don't think I specifically chose to go to healthcare. I was working in IT and I ended up getting a job at a university. In fact, I was in more university IT than healthcare IT. And I got a job at UNLV, but in their health and counseling center. So I kind of stumbled into healthcare on accident, if you will. I did look at it and say, wow, how amazing is this that I could have an impact on patients and improve, patient care through technology. And so, I did have that, goal of like, hey, could I make an impact in a bigger way in healthcare? And I saw that kind of mission driven idea when I got my first job in healthcare. But at the core, I'm a tech guy. I mean, I'm literally a tech guy on Twitter, right? Like that's what I am. I love technology. I love the use of technology. I'm not someone who thinks technology is always the solution. Sometimes a piece of paper is way better than technology. It's find the right solution for it. But I do love the way technology can transform anything. And I think that's true in healthcare. It can transform so many pieces of healthcare if we leverage technology the right way. So I'd say that's what I'm most passionate about is technology's ability to transform something. And I've just worked in healthcare for the last 20 years. So obviously now I have understanding, I have relationships, and actually, that's probably what will keep me in healthcare for the longest. I mean, who knows what the future will hold and where we'll head next because technology is moving so quickly. But I have so many friends in healthcare and healthcare technology in particular. And in healthcare, the people are so good. I mean, like, you don't get into healthcare to get rich necessarily, right? Some doctors, maybe a few of them, right? But like for the most part, you get into healthcare because you want to care for people. You want to provide a service to people. And so that ends up bringing some of the kindest, most caring people around. And I love that aspect of healthcare.
That's such a cool answer, honestly. I haven't thought about that. So I've been in healthcare for months now. Yeah, almost 8. I joined Talkie back in December of last year. So at the time of recording, it's July, and I gave everyone the kind of the lag between recording and release, but whatever. And yeah, it's true on a couple levels for me because I come from my first company was a software development company. Then I was at an agency, and I got really immersed in the agency space. US agencies, like you mentioned, made a lot of friends, and I do end up kind of missing them right now. But now I'm in this whole other pond, meeting new people like yourself. This is actually our first conversation, and we started recording after 5 minutes. So there's really something to that the relationships keep you there and keep you satisfied with what you do. So, speaking of which, you already alluded to your wealth of experience in healthcare. So, this is the question that I ask every guest on the show, but especially you with so much experience in the space. I'm sure it was difficult to choose because I do believe you've heard of this one before on this show, but I gotta ask you, John, what is your number one tip for successfully growing a healthcare practice, or which one are you gonna pick today?
Yeah, I really like that you used wealth of experience rather than saying I'm old, which I think is both true.
I would never.
It's definitely the wealth of experience comes with age. But yeah, I mean, if I were to say number one tip, I would say start with the patients and in particular patient reviews. I think, healthcare is all about the word of mouth. And in healthcare and medical practices, the word of mouth and the most powerful word of mouth that you can create is having your patients review your practice. And there's so many amazing tools to help make this happen, because it turns out it doesn't really happen naturally. There's only two people who actually do patient reviews naturally, and one of them is stronger than the other. And that is people that hate you and people that love you. And if they love you enough to do a review, it was probably because they're related to you or something. They have some vested interest, right? And so the nice thing is there's a lot of tools that help change that formula and that equation that can let you just prompt the patient to give a review. And that makes it so that those people that are had a good experience, but maybe not good enough to go and do a review, it prompts them to say, oh yeah, I should do that. And I'll help out the doctor. And so, to me, patient reviews is the simplest way that you can be able to impact and grow your practice, because if you get a lot of Google reviews that are good, that's going to increase your ranking. If you get a lot of Google reviews that are good, that's good, because then when the patient goes to their insurance company and says, which doctor should I go to? Well, they want to go to the highest rated one, the one that has a lot of great reviews from actual patients that shows how it is. So to me, patient reviews is a great starting point. It's something a lot of practices haven't done, and it's pretty simple to do these days. There's great technology to help support you in one, tracking the reviews, but then also encouraging them to actually do the reviews. And the nice thing with the tracking is if someone does give a bad review, don't think that as the death knell in your marketing, like, oh, someone reviewed me poorly. Actually, that's a perfect opportunity for you to show how caring you are for your patients. So if someone gives a bad review, go give a positive response, a caring response, and say, let's connect and let's discuss this. Then that actually turns that negative in review into a positive, because we all know that crappy experiences happen. It happens everywhere, not just in healthcare. And if they see that you respond to a bad experience with caring and concern, then now they say, oh, this is the kind of practice I want to go to. So let's start with patient reviews. That's where I'd go.
Yeah, you can definitely come back from a negative review. And wow, what a practical piece of advice for the number one tip question. I love it. You alluded to tools a couple of times here. So is there any particular tools you would recommend here?
Yeah, I mean, I think Rate does some interesting stuff on the reviews side. I think Social Climb is another company that can help you with that. They do some as well. They do a lot more than just that, but if you want to do it, I think they're good. So those are probably two of the ones that I know best, but there's a bunch out there.
At the very least, Rate is one that I've already heard about, and I've been reaching out to them to get them on the show. Maybe they'll see this episode, and maybe that'll make it happen finally.
Well,
We'll
you'll love
see.
this. The founder of Rate actually was a founder of electronic health record company called SRS Soft that sold. And so I've known him for probably 2 decades. It's crazy how, it's a very incestuous world in healthcare.
Ah. Well, in that case, maybe we can touch upon that after the show. But anyway, we're getting a little bit sidetracked here already. Awesome answer to the number one tip question, and I'll definitely. It reminds me of some of our previous episodes, like with Calvin Gooley, for example. I won't expand it on it too much here, but I'll leave a note in the show notes, and I hope that when ChatGPT gets the transcript of this episode, it'll catch this and remember to put it in the show notes as well. But anyway, speaking of technology, right? Because that's a part of my workflow. I'm sure it might be part of yours as well. Anyway, so diving deeper into healthcare and IT and technology, I was wondering where to take this conversation, and I thought at first, let's talk about something that's fairly general and kind of broad purpose, right? So I'm imagining a lot of people within, healthcare technology in general are listening to this. You've had, as you mentioned, like thousands of conversations, recorded or not, about how to succeed in this space. So I wanted to ask you, what do you think it takes mentally, emotionally, in terms of mindset, to really succeed in the healthcare space or in healthcare IT specifically? What do you think are the most important mental assets you should have?
Yeah, I think there's one thing that's probably the key to success in healthcare, and it's probably the key everywhere, but, in healthcare, it's a slightly more complicated, and that is that you need to understand the business of healthcare. And you look at it and you say, "Well, what does that really mean?" And the answer is it's complicated. Like, healthcare is one of the most complicated mix of nonprofit, business, government, policy, complexity with payers and PBMs and employers have their hand in the mix. Basically, everyone that's anyone has their hand in healthcare and is influencing what happens. And so, government's the biggest customer of healthcare. Employers are massive customers of healthcare, but they outsource it to these things called payers, insurance companies, and many other, organizations that are middlemen between it all. And then, you go all the way down to the doctors who are trying to care for the patient. And to be frank, are very caring for the patients, but they're stuck in a system that has all sorts of crazy, perverse incentives that make doing what's right for the patient hard. Simple example, prior authorizations, right? That just is miserable for every practice, right? Like, and that we had an announcement recently that payers are saying, "Hey, let's do electronic prior auth, and can we automate this?" I think it's gonna get better over the next couple of years. But man, understanding the business of healthcare and how prior authorization works and how patients make decisions and how they don't based on, are they paying? Is their employer paying? What's their deductible? Do they have, a health savings plan? Do they, it's just so complicated. So to me, that's probably one of the keys, is to understand the business so that you can understand what's really happening. Because otherwise, you're going to run into all sorts of blocks and be like, wait, you're denying care for this patient. Why? And sometimes you'll be like, hey, there is no answer. This is inexplicable and unexplainable. And sometimes you'll be like, okay, I see where the payer's coming from. That's why they're doing what they're doing. May still be wrong, and you may still want to battle it. That's fine. But understanding the business of healthcare, I think, is the key to, being able to deal with the mental and emotional challenges that come in any business, but in particular in healthcare.
And in terms of kind of the characteristics you would need here, the two words that come to my mind based on what you just said are empathy and curiosity. Because you need to have empathy to be able to put yourself in the shoes of the payer, of the patients, or of the doctor, and also the curiosity to find out what their world really looks like, right? So that's where my mind went based on what you just said. I do have two threads to pull on here, or I'm thinking of two right now. One is, you mentioned prior authorizations, and for the people watching and listening who might not be super familiar with that, or maybe for some hosts of the show that might not be, could you explain that a little bit more?
Yeah, so it's funny because, it's something unique to the US, and it's probably uniquely bad to the US, let's be frank. But, other countries don't deal with it, in the same way. But prior authorization is essentially saying, hey, the doctor wants to do this test, this procedure, this whatever it is, this x-ray, whatever it is, and they send it to the insurance company and say, is this authorized? Are you going to pay me, basically? So the doctor basically goes to the insurance company and says, are you going to pay me? And the insurance company will say, yeah, I'll pay for that. Or they'll say, nope, we're not paying for that. And so there's this battle between doctor and payer to say, will they pay for it? And both sides have an argument. The doctor on the one side is like, why do I go to the payer to have them tell me what I should be doing to care for the patient? I'm the doctor. I should be doing what's in the best interest for the patient. The payer perspective, going back to your point of empathy, right? Like, how do we have empathy for the payer? Well, the payer's perspective is, hey, I don't want to be doing a bunch of care that's not valid care, that's not based on some sort of finding and, evidence-based medicine, or even, let's be frank, fraud, which could happen as well. It's less likely in a prior authorization, perspective. But anyway, the payer is saying, I don't want to pay for care that's not actually effective for the patient. And so that's their argument anyways, is that prior authorization is ensuring that the right care is being provided that's based on evidence-based medicine. Now, of course, it's corrupted on both sides, right? The doctors, un, unethical doctors will ask for care that's not evidence-based or even fraud. And then on the payer side, they'll deny stuff that is evidence-based because they have an ophthalmologist approving an orthopedic surgeon prior authorization. And so there's problems on both sides of it, right? But that's the basic idea, is that, and many doctors won't do it, right? Because they don't want to give you this $1,000 MRI scan if you're going to be on the hook for the $1,000 and the insurance isn't going to pay for it. So, this happens every single day in every healthcare organization in the US.
And if you had a single piece of advice because this show is for practice managers primarily, that's the side that we're trying to reach here, and that's gonna be tuning in. What do you think is a piece of advice about prior authorization that you might have to share with them?
My biggest piece of advice is when, help is on the way, e-prior auth is coming. I think it's going to come, in the next 2 years. 2027 is the deadline that was set in Washington. We'll see how that, and some are doing it even earlier. So we'll see. That's going to help. It's not going to solve everything, but what's going to really be beneficial that they get a profit from now is there's a lot of these AI companies that are doing the hard work for them. Because it turns out, what is one of the biggest things that they do with prior auth that wastes their time? It wastes the doctor's time, it wastes the practice manager's time. And I'll tell you what it is. It's sitting on hold with the insurance companies. They just sit on the phone and they just sit there waiting because they got to get through to get this approval. And they're just wasting so much time. You look at that and you say to yourself, I mean, you know this. If you're AI, what am I going to do? I'm not going to have a human wait on the call. I'm going to have AI wait on the call. And I'm going to have AI make the call for me. Now, why isn't this an API? I'm a tech guy. It should be an API. It's going to, e-prior coming. It should be that way, right? But until it is, guess what? This is a great solution for AI to actually do the prior authorization calls for you and get the prior authorization. So anyway, I think that's a really interesting application of voice AI, is calling, and doing the prior authorizations for the humans. And there's a number, of organizations working on this. I haven't seen anyone quite crack this because it is such a multivariate problem. But there's people working on it for sure.
It's interesting how you mentioned waiting on hold, because that's very close to what we care about here at Talkie, but from a different perspective, right? We're here to eliminate the waiting on hold part of the patients trying to reach their practice. So that's why we have, but our AI agents are on the side of the practice, picking up the calls and just serving the queries of the patient that way. And by the way, watchers and listeners, if that sounds interesting, go to talkie.ai and book a demo. Anyway, was that too salesy? I guess we'll find out.
No, I mean, I think, it's funny. We had these focus groups. I was at a conference, and
Uh-huh.
the company tried to be so above board, right? Let's talk
Uh-huh.
thought leadership. And then
Mm.
they got a review from one of the CIOs, and the CIO said, hey, I appreciate that you respected us and didn't try to sell us, but guess what? If you could solve some of our problems, we do want to know about it. So please tell us how you
Yeah.
can solve the
Yeah.
problems. So,
Yeah.
Talkie AI can solve some of those hold problems for practices. So I think it's great.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. I'm come from a not just a marketing background, but a content marketing background, and the idea there was like give value, give value, give value. Don't even mention the word like buy or try or even trial or anything like that. I'm trying to unlearn that and hit a balance. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. So AI was already mentioned, which was bound to happen. So I wanted to kind of get the obvious question out of the way, but also ask somebody who's been in the space for a while, pre AI and now post AI, mid AI. Well, not post AI, definitely not yet. Anyway, what's your take on AI? What's your take on the way it's impacting healthcare? Are you skeptical? Are you an optimist? Do you see both sides? What would you say?
I mean, everyone that knows me knows I'm an optimist, but I actually would, it's interesting how you framed it. Where are we at in AI? I think we're still like early AI. Like we barely woke up to AI. And so my answer is I don't think we know. I don't think we really know how much AI is going to impact healthcare. Like we're getting inklings in different areas, and there's amazing things that are happening that are actually being used today, not just, hey, I think AI is going to replace the doctor, right? Like that, it's not this like nebulous idea of like, hey, this might happen, These are like real things. Like the best example for me is AI medical scribes or AI assistants or however you want to call it with the ambient technology. It's amazing how quickly that's being adopted and how those organizations are preventing burnout for a doctor. And actually, then they're going to transform the revenue cycle because that's going to happen all automatically using the technology and using AI as well. And when you look at that and you say, wait a minute, the AI scribe has all of the content from the visit, the same as the doctor. And then they also have access to all the data from the EHR. They're working on those integrations and through other sources of data, whether it's the HIE or other places. You look at that and you say, if I squint my eyes a little bit, I'm like, that AI scribe is almost the doctor, right? Like I had a doctor who wrote this. He said, hey, if you look at the AI scribes, they could do a lot of the diagnosing and they could present that to the doctor, and it's going to, right? Clinical decision support is being embedded in AI scribes today, where it's saying, did you think about this? Do you think about this? Now, the only reason we haven't done this yet is because we're scared. We're scared to even try it because we're like, wait, who's liable? The AI scribe or is it the doctor? And right now we want the doctor to still be liable. And so, we're doing that. But when you look at it, you're like, wow, that is actually pretty close to the AI scribe being able to effectively diagnose a patient. And like I said, we're going to cue that up to the doctor because we want to keep the liability with the doctor for now. But man, it's not far off from it being a doctor. And when you look at it, it reminds me of a story of a telehealth company who back in the day said, I looked at all my visits, and this was a doctor who was looking at his visits. And he said, I think his number was 60% of the visits that he had, he needed no physical exam. Like basically, he didn't need them in the exam room. He could just talk to him on the phone and he could have done the exact diagnosis that he would have done with them in the exam room. And if that's the case, now you apply that to AI scribes. Wait, it has all of that data as well. And it can ask for whatever data it needs because they're so interactive these days. It's not hard to imagine where the AI scribe could really accelerate what's happening. So anyway, that's the scribe side. I could talk about it forever, obviously. But if you look at it on the administrative side, do any of us want to call a doctor ever again or a medical practice to schedule an appointment? And I'll tell you, if I'm gonna sit on hold and then I'm gonna have to wait for the the pay the front desk and all that, no. Why wouldn't I wanna use an automated chatbot on the website or at least a chatbot on the phone, right? Like, why would I wanna interact with a human? Like, imagine if we had to use Amazon but we had to call and wait on hold, and then they had to filter us through some weird system that says, "Oh, sorry, I'm not sure we're gonna give you that for 3 months because guess what? You don't have the right insurance to pay for that." That's what we do in healthcare. It's like, but no one wants that, right? We want an automated future that lets us schedule it in the way that makes sense for us. So, I think that's another way to look at it is like the human receptionist is probably going to end in a medical practice. And that's a good thing because it turns out most of those people don't want those low paying jobs anyways, right? They want, they'd rather be doing something that's more effective and efficient. So anyway, that's like a big vision thing. We're not there. It's going to take a while to get there. But I think automating the connection is what most of us want.
Wow. So you just gave me like 7 threads to pull on, and this is going to be a challenge. But I do have notes, so let me try and get back through all of these threads. We might end up making this whole episode about AI. I'm sorry, there's a lot to talk about here, definitely. So, first of all, you're the first person I think that I spoke with who just out and said it. Even within Talkie, we do mostly talk about, complimenting the human receptionist, taking the burden off of them. But if we look far enough into the future, it might be, as you're saying, the human receptionist is ending or the role really is going to be minimized, right? So it was a moment for me to hear that said and to think, okay, and I'm also part of that change by working at Talkie. Second thing I wanted to mention is, what I think people really underestimate is, because you mentioned people don't want to call, a doctor ever again. They don't want to wait on hold. But also, I don't know if this has been your experience as well. It's stressful to call a medical practice. It's stressful to face the issues you might be facing. Let's say you're scheduling a checkup to maybe check. You've got a history of cancer in your family, right? And you find that you want to schedule that checkup, and instead of scheduling it immediately, you have to wait on hold and like be with your thoughts for like 7 minutes or however long. I think there's tons of people, and that's what keeps me going at Talkie, that there's tons of people that just put the phone down and never call again, and it really impacts how long they end up, on this earth.
It's
So
not just stressful, right? Like, imagine we wanted to go on a trip to Italy, right? We would wait on the phone a long time because we want to go to Italy so bad, right? Ironically, we don't wait on the phone now. It's all self-service and we just book it ourselves. But if it was something you enjoy, like a trip, we wait on hold to get tickets to our favorite concert. We don't like it, but we're motivated to do it because we can't wait to see Beyonce or Faith Hill or whoever, right? Like, we can't wait to see
Metallica
Taylor
on my
Swift
end.
in concert. Who's
Yeah.
yours?
Metallica, definitely. I
Oh,
saw them,
Metallica, okay.
15 years ago, and it's one of my most cherished memories of all time,
Yeah.
definitely.
Well, if you wanna do a concert, you'll wait on hold. Is there anything in healthcare that we want to do? The only answer is, "I'm in pain, and I want this pain gone." And so, like, we're motivated when we're in pain, but other than that, like, you're not motivated. Like, we don't go to healthcare for our entertainment or because we are excited to see our doctor, right? It's something we do because we need to do it, but not something we want to do. So 100% you're right. Like when we're waiting on hold, we're like, dude, I'm waiting to do something, to schedule something that I don't want to do. That's not a recipe for happiness.
Exactly. It's like the concert is in the want part of life. I really, really want to, for example, see Metallica again or some of these other awesome bands. I think my next one might be Slipknot or something, in terms of the big metal bands, right? But calling a medical practice, that's in the should part of life, or, I really need to, or even though I don't want to part of life. And that should be as simple and as quick as possible so we can get back to the stuff that we want. So the next part I wanted to comment on from what you said a moment ago is you said that people are scared to try giving more of the responsibility for the diagnosis and outsourcing that to AI. But in my mind, who's not scared to try it? Individual people who more and more often end up going to ChatGPT to diagnose, some complex issues. And it's okay, anecdote from my end. I was talking with a friend. I was at my brother's bachelor weekend, met one of his friends who's got a young daughter, right? And they were abroad, I believe in Turkey, and she started to get feverish, she started to develop a cough, etc., right? And they were in a hotel in a foreign country, didn't know how anything worked there in terms of the healthcare system, what to do. And again, they could try to call, try to communicate in, probably in English. Both sides might not be super, acquainted with English. They went straight to ChatGPT, and ChatGPT recommended the right meds, recommended some really clever ways to mitigate the symptoms, like, hang out some cold, wet towels to kind of increase the humidity in the room, right? And I wonder what you think about that. That, institutionally, the practices themselves, they don't want to go that route, but individual people who need care are already doing that. How do you see that progressing in the future?
Yeah, it's slightly ironic too because no doctor would prescribe hanging wet towels in your room, right? Like that's not a treatment that they generally get, right? And yet if it was effective, like that's great. You're
Yeah,
100% right. Patients are going to reach out to the most convenient solution. And it goes back to our previous conversation. Healthcare right now is not convenient. And so, sure, if we want the best care, but as AI continues to improve, it's a risk question for a patient. What's the risk of me going to the doctor versus going to ChatGPT and AI to get a solution? Well, that risk, is coming close, right? We still think the doctor's better, but we think ChatGPT is getting close. And so if it's close, and then I'm like, well, I don't know. I don't want the inconvenience of scheduling a doctor and waiting and on hold and all that, yeah, let's just try ChatGPT. And then if it doesn't work, I can always still go back to the doctor, right? So, especially for things that aren't chronic or at least people think aren't chronic and aren't going to be so damaging, yeah, let's try ChatGPT first. So, 100% individuals are going to embrace it, and whether doctors want them to or not.
exactly. Exactly. And that's why I think, innovation in this space is extremely important, and plugging these gaps so the institutions can also lean on AI, that might be more urgent than they realize. And then next thing I wanted to ask you, because again, like I mentioned, you gave me a lot of interesting threads to pull on. I wonder what you think about AI agents. Let me frame the question correctly. I wonder if you think the way things are going is we're going to keep talking about agents and keep kind of personifying AI, because right now that seems to be the trend, right? Even here at Talkie, we do talk about, part of your receptionist team is going to be AI Jessica, and she's going to be picking up the calls, right? Jessica isn't real. Jessica is an AI. So I wonder if that's hurting or helping the space, and I just wanted to get your take on it. That, we're thinking of AI like we're thinking about human resources, almost like we're adding AI agents, almost like adding quasi people, right, to the rosters of our organizations. What's your take on agents then?
I mean, think about what you just said. You said Jessica's not real. Actually, Jessica is real. Jessica is an AI bot that people love because Jessica does what they want Jessica to do, which is make their life more efficient and more effective and get them the answers they need. So for them, Jessica is real and Jessica is helpful. I get what you're saying. Jessica's not a human. Doesn't isn't breathing, isn't, sleeping, all those things, right? But for them, Jessica is real because it's solving a real problem that they have. And so, to your point, these agents are going to become very real to us and they're going to become very specific to whatever we need. And I think that's true whether it's in your personal life where you're saying, "Hey agent, plan my trip to Cancun," right? Like and figure out the best things to do. Or whether it's, "Hey AI agent, will you schedule me an appointment for this dermatology issue that I have?" And they take a picture of it and then it sees and says, "Oh, here's a telehealth appointment, here's an urgent care one, here's a whatever," and gives you all the selection that you can choose. And you say, "I want it, option C," and then it goes schedule it for you. Like this is going to happen. Now imagine once that happens, how that's going to impact a medical practice. Because guess what? Jessica may be answering the phone of another agent, another AI agent that's scheduling an appointment with Jessica. So agents are going to start talking to agents, which really blows your mind when you're like, wait, where does this go? And how does that play out? Right. So, and then within the practice, it's true also. I mean, we see agents being applied to credentialing for doctors and staff of your organization. The credentialing process can all be done by agents. It's filling out a bunch of forms. We could do that in agents, right? Revenue cycle management. Every aspect of revenue cycle management is being applied to having agents applied to it. Small balances, prior authorization, claims, all of the denials, everything that's there, it's all going to be agents, right? We already talked about the AI medical scribe, but all of that, Nabla actually framed it this way. They're like, we need to get rid of the term scribe. We're an assistant. We're creating agents for doctors that are going to do everything that the doctor needs to do. So I actually don't think agents is going away. I think it's just going to explode, and it's going to become very much more specific in the tasks that it's able to do.
Yeah, it's funny that we're discussing this days after ChatGPT launched its own AI agents feature. I haven't played around with that yet. I'm on Plus right now for my personal ChatGPT. I should be getting it today, actually. I think they said Monday. Anyway, so that's neither here nor there. What I wanted to ask is, so given what we said about agents, do you subscribe to the notion that this is a take I've heard around on the web, not just about healthcare, but about AI in general, that we're all gonna become more managerial in the way we work? Because right now, the actual doing of the thing we can outsource to AI, so we need to think more big picture, how to instruct, what guidelines to set. This popped up. This is not from my list of questions, definitely, but just where my mind went given what we just discussed.
Yeah, it's interesting to see, right? The workplace is going to change. Anyone that says that jobs aren't going to be lost, must have a job they don't want to lose, right? Like, to me, when word processing came about, guess what got all those stenographers that were typing in everything for them? They're all gone. All those jobs are gone, right? Like this has happened before, and it's going to happen again. There's a lot of jobs in healthcare that are going to be gone. And in many cases, they're going to be jobs that people, if you have it, you're grateful for it, but they aren't fun jobs, right? Like, it's not going to, remove jobs where you're like, oh, I enjoyed it because it provided for my family, but not because I actually enjoyed doing the job. So to me, it's going to transform the jobs. And so the key question everyone should be looking at is, how do I upskill? And how, I'll steal a famous comment I heard from Brad Feld, a famous venture capitalist, written a lot of books. He said, "Are you going to be the one that tells the robots what to do, or are you going to be the one that's told by the robots what you should do?" And I love that idea, right? Like, you should upskill your skill set so you can tell the robots what they need to be doing. Is that managerial? I don't know, right? I don't know if it's managerial, but what it is it's an upskill. You have to have better skills, and you have to have more strategic skills and perspective to be able to tell the robots, the agents, what to do. And so I think that's the evolution of jobs, is someone who can embrace the technology enough to know how it's working, and that understands the industry. As we kind of started, healthcare is complex. So someone who understands that complexity can tell the robots what to do in a more effective manner than someone who doesn't. And so to me, take that institutional knowledge, that industry specific knowledge, and then you leverage the technology and these agents to then do stuff that before you wouldn't, one, you would have taken forever, and or wouldn't have even been possible.
I really like that. And I think it's an interesting perspective. I'm taking away a lot from this conversation. People watching this can kind of see my gears turning in real time based on what you're saying. But unfortunately, our time is coming to a close here very rapidly, as these conversations often tend to go. So I had just one last question before we tell the watchers and listeners where to find you, etc. And that question was going to be, when you think of a practice manager right now, and I was going to ask about technology in general. I think this might be mostly about AI, but let's think broadly. What do you think they should be doing right now to prepare themselves for what's coming from a healthcare technology perspective?
So, I mean, I think the key right now for any practice manager is to be learning. And the best way to learn is to do. So dive into it, whether it's a small project of like, how am I going to use ChatGPT to improve the letters that I send to patients, right? I mean, that's a start, or find an agent, think about your day and think about the process that you do over and over and feel robotic. Because we all have those. We all have those things where you're like, geez, a robot should be doing this, not me, because it's the same thing that I've done every day for the past, 3 years or whatever. Think about those and say, could I apply AI to it? And so the best way to learn is to start doing. And you're going to fail, and that's okay. You're going to try something, you'll be like, oh, dang, the AI isn't quite ready, right? But then keep trying because you'll learn through that process that when you failed with that AI, oh, it didn't work for this problem, but it may work for this other problem that I didn't even realize was possible because you haven't gotten your hands dirty. So that is my suggestion is, put your hands in, try some stuff and see how it works. I know that's hard when you're in a busy medical practice and you're like, geez, I have patients coming in, I have bills that have to be done. But just know that if you invest in the learning up front, you're going to gain so many benefits and efficiencies later. So that's the key is learn and explore. If you have good associations, you can get some targeted learning in the sense of you can see what other people are doing and start doing that so that you know that it can be successful. But then when you do it and you get your hands in the AI or in the technology that you're leveraging, you can better understand how it can apply other places. So that's the best thing you can do is try stuff.
I absolutely agree. I'm nodding my head hard at what you're saying right now. And two things come to mind just from recent experience that really mesh with this. I recently had a coffee chat from my previous agency life with a real doer. He's a solopreneur. I'm gonna name drop him. He's Chris Dubois. Really recommend following him. He's going places. He's gone places. He's a great follow. He showed me his workflow for writing content. And the way he does it is he's got, I think the tool is called Super Whisper, a tool that just listens to him as he talks, and then through these automations, make.com, it goes through all of these nodes of like specialized GPTs. This one just outlines and structures the content. This one writes the introduction. This one writes the body. This one writes the outro. This one node was just meant to convert what was already written to his voice, so it sounds like him, etc., etc. So one piece of advice based on that is, well, other than playing around with make.com, which is definitely on my to-do list, is think of very specialized GPTs. The narrower the task, the better it can do. And the second is, honestly, what's been a game changer for me is getting my own ChatGPT subscription, not just using the company one that we definitely have. And the way I'm using it is for personal stuff, but I'm also learning a lot about how it works as a result. So I'm using it for cooking, for example, and it's great to have like a long flowing conversation, what I like, what I don't like, what I got in my fridge, what I don't, and that's something that people can do even outside of work to upskill themselves for the challenges at work. So just wanted to add that in, and unfortunately, that's all the time that we've got here today. So, John, I cannot believe the time went by so fast. And as the last question, I just wanted you to share with the watchers and listeners where they can find you, follow you, maybe even a couple more words about yourself, because I just introduced you and then we launched right into it, right? So, yeah, if you could share a little bit about that.
Yeah, no problem. If they search John Lynn, I think I'm 5 of the top 10 Google search results. I don't know, Gen AI. I wonder if you search John Lynn on Gen AI. Well, it knows about me too. I've seen it do burns and stuff. But anyway, the best way to find us is healthcareittoday.com. That's our health IT community. So if you care about how technology is applied to healthcare, you can go there. We have 4 podcasts there. You can like and subscribe, as the kids say. And then sway.health, that's sway with 2 A's, is our healthcare marketing community. So we talk about all the trends in how do you market your medical practice, how do you market your healthcare organization, plenty of health IT companies, as well, and how do you market. So sway.health, it has an email newsletter, it has a podcast, it has content just like Healthcare IT Today. We have all the modalities. So if you follow those, that's the best. If you follow Tech Guy on Twitter, X, whatever it's called these days, I'm still there, although certainly less active. LinkedIn, definitely connect with me there. I think we've seen a huge move towards LinkedIn and the B2B side of things. So we definitely share all our content on LinkedIn and X and all the different social channels. So yeah, reach out and connect. I always love to learn from people.
I can definitely second that. And I like it that things are moving towards LinkedIn. I've been investing most of my time there, so I'm glad the exodus isn't going the other way, LinkedIn becoming a ghost town and everybody going to Twitter, X, or whichever. No, more and more people are joining the fun over at LinkedIn. If you follow the right people, because it's got a reputation, but if you follow the right people, it can really be a valuable source, I do believe. And I met a ton of great people through LinkedIn. Didn't we initially connect through there?
Yeah,
Anyway,
probably.
I think that might have been exactly. So here you have it. And now I recorded an episode with you. I can also recommend the Healthcare IT Today episode with Ada Andruszkiewicz, our COO. If you just look up Healthcare IT Today Talkie, that should pop up. And well, for today, that's it, watchers and listeners. Oh, if you're running a medical practice or know somebody who does, maybe you're advising medical practices, you should check out Talkie. Go to talkie.ai and find out more about our AI voice agents for the medical front desk. But yeah, if you've been listening to this show, you know that already. Like and subscribe, just like John said. Definitely on YouTube and all the other platforms. We're on Spotify, we're on Apple. Rate us, and that's enough CTAs for one day. John, this was an amazing conversation. I honestly, I've been having a bit of a down day in terms of energy, and I'm so hyped. I need to go for a run or something. So thank you so much for coming on the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, it was. And for you watchers and listeners, thank you so, so, so much for joining us here today. And I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.